Welcome back to another Procure Tech Wonder. I am here with Vendorful, Peter from Vendorful, and I cannot wait to dive in and learn more about Vendorful today. From what I understand, they are on a mission to simplify complex interactions between buyers and sellers, which is a whole new world for me. So I'm super looking forward to what I'm going to learn today, and I hope you are too.
So I'm Pete Bonney. I am the founder and CEO of Vendorful. And you nailed it. Our mission, literally our mission statement in our employee handbook, is to simplify complex interactions between buyers and sellers. And so that's what we do. And we offer a suite of products to both buyers and sellers to help with that.
So, Pete, the first question, and I think you hit on it already a little bit, is what does Vendorful do?
What I am focused on is simplifying transactions for complex products and services. That seems to be the pain point where buyers and sellers are still just exchanging a lot of documents, a lot of information, and no one's really come up with a better way of doing it than, like say you want to buy, you're considering buying a really complex software product. No one has yet to come up with a better solution than issuing an RFP. And an RFP is terrible,
Yes.
but it is, better than all the other options, right?
Right.
And so, we are increasingly, focused on that aspect, that sort of like transactional aspect, not so much like transaction in the sense of like literally, exchanging payments for, for widgets, but more like the sort of engagement phase of a complex transaction.
Can you tell us a little bit, Pete, around why you might be better from your competition, other solutions out there? Really, how do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace?
We actually offer products and services to both buyers and sellers. And, because again, our mandate and what we've sort of tried to do from day one is to identify ways that we can try to simplify these business interactions. And as a result of that, like I've got some real strong opinions, and we've got some, very uh, developed ideas about how we can kind of help both sides there, right? It's not just about helping people in procurement. We want, I guess, if you want to sort of look at it from a procurement person's perspective, we want the vendor experience to be positive as well. We want to find
Yeah.
ways to simplify things for vendors, when they're dealing with a complex process. So, like having been in, my background is not in procurement. My background was in finance, and so I observed kind of like watching these
Yes.
transactions happen from both sides. Yeah, and so one thing I've come to appreciate about the procurement software market since I've been in it is everyone competes with each other a little bit, but not 100%. And
Yeah.
so, I think when we, as we go into this conversation and as we, get into the demo phase, I'm really going to try and focus on what I think we do uniquely well and what actually differentiates us, because, I don't think look, I was having a conversation with another Procure Tech CEO the other day.
Mhm.
We both observed that every procurement software company is slowly morphing into a suite, slowly morphing into a Reba.
Yes. Yep.
Um, and so, I don't want to focus on the things that like, it's kind of like, well, yes, we've got like some supplier information management, and like bluntly, we don't do it as well as something like Graphite, but we do it because some of our customers want it and they want to have it in one place, and that's fine. And it fits with what we're doing. It's just not what I think we do exceptionally well.
Okay. And I love that you mentioned Graphite. We just literally published their Procure Tech Wonders videos. So if you want to check them out, link below. But they're a great partner and a great solution. But fair point. And you've already mentioned your love for RFPs. It's a very strong opinion that I have too. So we're in the same boat there. So let's go on to the next question. And you've already mentioned that you sell to both buyers and sellers,
Mhm.
but who is your target market within those two areas?
We're mostly targeting what I guess would be considered the mid-market, up to
Okay.
small enterprises. Um, we certainly have customers that would be considered large enterprises, and we have, some customers that would be considered small businesses. But really, it's kind of the mid-market. Let's call it, 1,000 to 5,000 employees typically, especially on the procurement side. On the vendor side, there's sort of a lot more, maybe in kind of like the 500 to 2,500 range.
Yeah.
Just, they're dealing with different challenges, but, different challenges around the same fundamental problem of having to manage this information and deal with each other.
Talk a little bit about how you price your solutions for both buyers and sellers. Obviously, I'm not looking for a price, but how do you calculate that and what do you base it
Sure.
off?
So yeah, it's usage based, and the thing that we do that is unique,
Mhm.
I think in the marketplace, is we want to make sure that you're getting value out of it. And one thing that's different between selling to procurement and selling to sales teams is sales teams have a lot less trouble getting budget. If they think something's going to help
That's
them, they'll
true.
have the money for it.
Yes.
Yeah, and so on the procurement side, what we have increasingly been doing is actually not charging anything until there is demonstrated cost savings and sort of earning our way into the subscription. And so if it's not working out, then then we're just we're going to bear that financial risk. And
Wow.
just one little aside there, I know I said the dirty word there, cost savings. I mean, look, in the interest of transparency, one thing I've
Yeah.
observed is, as much as I think procurement can deliver a lot more than just cost savings, that is ultimately the metric it's measured by, just like sales teams are measured by revenue.
Right.
And so, in my experience, it goes a lot easier kind of for procurement teams to get what they want when they can show clear cut, like, hey, this is saving us money.
All right. So last three questions we have here. The
Mhm.
next one is related to where you're going. So what should we be excited about coming from Vendorful here in the future?
Okay, so I've got photos of a whiteboard from 8 years ago when we started, like when this was just an idea that my co-founder and I had, and it's now like the technology has finally caught up to the point where this is possible. I've always wanted to kill the RFP. I think it's
Yay.
you know yeah, it's just there's so much wrong with it from both sides. Um, but it's a solution to a problem, right? The problem is real, and it's one of the best things people have come up with. It's just that, I think in theory there are better ways to do it. And so,
Yeah.
like, ultimately, what we've always wanted to do is to take advantage of technology and AI, to kind of reverse the way that these interactions happen. Um,
Okay.
and always be simplifying, simplify. And the simplest version of, like, this complex purchase is,
Yeah.
instead of a buyer coming up with a list of 1,000 questions that they're going to ask vendors to fill out, like, let the sort of all-knowing, omniscient kind of data repository that sits in the middle that knows what's out in the marketplace ask
Yeah.
you, like, hey, what is your unique need? Right? Like, what is it you're trying to solve? And instead of you coming up with 1,000 questions, like, we will tell you, like, all right, you want something that is, software is easy thing for people to understand. So you want
Mhm.
something hosted in US East because you're a financial company and you need this, that, the other thing, and you need HIPAA compliance and whatever. Okay, like, instead of you having to ask people those repetitive questions, like these are the recommendations that, like, meet your needs. Now let me ask you a few questions so that I can identify the 10 things instead of the 150 or 1,000 things
Yeah.
that really matter for you to make your choice. And that makes life, it's going to make life easier on both sides. Now, I want to be clear. We do not offer this today. This is down the road. This is like where I see all this going. And that's why I think people should be excited and watch what we're doing.
For two last questions.
All right.
One is about a success story. So if you can share briefly a success that one of your clients have had.
Sure, I can share two, and I'll share two,
Yeah.
because, well, one of them is a very well known coffee company that I can't name, uh,
Okay.
They in their first event, they saved seven figures
Wow.
with Vendorful. So that was a big success. We were very
Yes.
happy about that. They were very happy about that. One I can share the name of is a case study on our website,
Yeah.
Brown University. Um, so Brown, in one of their first competitive bidding events that they ran through Vendorful, saved enough money that it has more than paid for their annual subscription since as long as they've been with us. So, those are those are
Okay.
those are the kind of savings we're trying to achieve for people.
Last one. Well, I always like to talk lessons learned. So if you can think about the leaders that you've been interacting with, what is one of the most common mistakes that leaders are making when they're considering a solution like yours, or even when they're implementing one that you can share so people avoid that moving forward?
I think
Okay.
too many organizations are looking to solve too many problems at one time. And which is, gets back to what I was saying, that every procure
Yeah.
tech solution is slowly morphing into Ariba, because I think it's tempting to think, hey, we're gonna have one shot to make one big investment in procure tech. It's got
Yeah.
to do everything. Um, and nothing can do everything, right?
Mhm.
And I think the really crippling thing that happens is, once you've made this case to your entire executive team, like, we're going to install big system X, I won't name names, although I
Yeah.
name dropped, sorry. Um, like, this is going to solve everything. And then when it turns out it doesn't, because nothing does,
Hmm.
no one's going to be able to admit that for several years, right? Because no
Yeah.
one wants to be the one sort of sticking their head up and saying, like, oh, hey, we invested all this money and we said it was going to solve everything and it didn't. And, so it leads to knock-on effects down the road where you sort of have your hands tied. Whereas, I think if you are more circumspect in your expectations, frankly, it also makes it easier to achieve success. Because as a whole, I could talk for an hour about this. Like, doing a big system implementation is, big W waterfall, not big A agile. And
Yes.
there is decades and decades of evidence that waterfall does not work in tech. So don't do it.
With Wonder Services, we often see after one of those big tech implementations, and not just procure tech, ERPs,
Mhm.
HRMS systems. So it's not just a procure tech
Oh, sure.
issue,
Yeah.
but when they do one of these big ones, they come to us, and I don't know what the magic number is, but it's 2 years. Like 2 years post implementation, they're like, "I'm done. We need help." Like,
Yep.
did it go well? Um,
Yep.
User adoption didn't go well. We're not using the full functionality, whatever it might be. So it's good business for us. Unfortunate for our clients, but
Yeah.
like that is something that we see over and over and over again. So you're right on with that lesson learned.
Uh, so I'm going to walk you through one particular part of our applications. I think rather than sort of try and show you everything in 15 minutes, I want to focus, in the spirit of what I was saying on the call or in the conversation, on what I think we do uniquely well. And am I not sharing my screen? I'm not sharing my
No,
screen.
it's not sharing yet.
Good, cool. So you might be wondering, why am I looking at a blank email? So I mentioned that we are increasingly focused on simplifying transactions between buyers and sellers. And, look, part of that is kind of complex things like RFPs and all the document exchange there and the information exchange. But part of it is the kind of competitive quotes that people do every day. And one thing I didn't get to talk about is, I think one of the misconceptions buyers have about sellers is that buyers want hope. Buyers don't want hope. They want certainty and clarity. And we offer something that we call the dynamic RFQ, which is a very, very simple way of doing competitive bidding in a way that's easy for the buyer, transparent for the seller. And once we've developed some data with our customers, can leverage AI to make intelligent suggestions about pricing. And so I'm going to start with a setup, and then you'll see what I mean in a second. So, this is going to be, just, if you can send an email, you can do this. And this is the other important thing. We're talking about our pricing and having alignment between customer outcomes and what we make. Well, one of the ways that system implementations go off the rail, as Amanda said, is implementation, complex implementation. Well, if you can send an email, you can do this. And so there is no complex implementation, there is no integration, there is no learning curve, there is no training. So here it is. I want to buy 100,000 aluminum, aluminum widgets. I want starting price 10, currency USD. You can put this in basically any order and we'll parse it. Win it now price, the magic number, like I would be thrilled to receive. If one of our vendors wants to just hit this price, they can win it automatically. They don't have to wait to the end. It can end the bidding instantly. Now, this is where AI comes in over time. If you've bought widgets over and over again from us, we can see the competitive dynamics and we can actually suggest to you the win it now price that you should put out there to encourage maximum cost savings. And I'm going to come back to the vendor experience here once I show the vendor screen, because you're probably thinking auction. It's not an auction. This is not sort of overbearing price pressure on the vendors. They have total control over what they do. It's not sort of time bearing down on them and seeing the price go lower and lower. They decide what they want to do, and they have the option of hitting the price or not. When now price this, I want to start tomorrow at 12 o'clock and I don't know, June 25th, 12 o'clock. So there you go. This is enough to start it off. This will go to our system. We'll identify, who this is coming from, put it in the right account, and off it goes. Now, I've got one that's been underway for a little while here, just to sort of illustrate how this looks. So here's an aluminum widgets bidding event, and I'm looking at it as the buyer. So I can see that I've got these 10 bidders that I invited. Oh, that was one thing I left off my email. The system would reply saying like, hey, we need this additional information, including who we're going to invite. So I left off the invitees, my mistake, but that's okay. Leave something off. The system will identify that it's missing and send you back the additional information that it needs. Okay, so this one's underway. We've got this sort of going here. It's been going, just for a day, but it's it's a bid that's going to last for 6 days. I'm going to flip over now to the vendor experience. This is one of the vendors that's involved in this bid. And you can see that it's a very simple experience for them. So, they got an email invitation to this bid, they log in, and they just, see this screen that has all their information. So this is, what we're buying, quantities, any specifications would be shown here on the information. And again, this is not sort of an overbearing experience. This is not, we're not sort of sitting on them like, Japanese auction style, sort of showing the price going down over time. They are in total control here. They know that this is a bid that is open. They have the option to bid on it. You see that, I've sort of been kind of, lowering my bid as we've gone along here. I don't have to. I could just sit here for 6 days and just wait. But I also have the option at any point of saying, you know what? I just want to win this business and I don't want to mess around. I'm just going to win this now. Do that. And boom. It's done. Oops, kind of bug there. Thinks that I didn't win, but I did win. And so now over here on the buyer side, the auction has concluded. I can see that Brondo is the winner, and it's all done. Importantly, the savings tracking, right? We talked about how we want to align the way we get paid with the actual savings that our customers experience. So this is just one of the types of transactions that you can do through Vendorful. I think it is probably the most differentiated, but the important thing here, and this is also true for any of the other bidding types or RFP types that you run through Vendorful, everything here is tracked with hard savings here. So Brondo, 10% savings from the initial price, $10, which is the benchmark that I set. So this is hard dollar savings of $100,000. Take it to the CFO. That's what you got. And that is it on the dynamic RFQ. I think this is probably the most, it's not it. I think it's probably the most interesting part of what we're doing, probably the most compelling cost savings element of what we're doing. But like I said, not quite it, because the thing that we learn from over time, so the more times you run, widget events in this case, whatever it is that you're buying repeatedly, the more we see the competitive dynamics, and the better we can actually suggest, well, okay, look, in this example, I set a price of $9. Maybe the actual real kind of compelling price that's going to sort of strike the balance between being low enough that the savings are going to be incredibly compelling for you as the buyer, but high enough that a vendor is pretty likely, one of the however many vendors involved in this is pretty likely to actually hit that level. Maybe that number is, 932, right? Over time, based on the competitive dynamics that we see, the number of bidders that you involve in the event, whether there's a commodity component and whether that's linked to a third party, an observable third party price of some kind, all of those things can go into the equation of like, what is the win it now price that I should offer out to my vendors? And like the really impactful thing that we see is it doesn't happen all the time that a vendor will choose to select that price and just say, I want to win this business, full stop. But when they do, the savings are massive. And overall, the impact and measurable cost savings is huge. So that is probably the number one thing that I want to emphasize today. But look, in the spirit of every procure tech company in the world is a suite. Let's talk about the other ways that we can simplify your interactions with your vendors. So this is Acme Corp. This is supplier record inside Vendorful for this fictitious company Acme. We can draw in information from your different systems, from your finance systems and ERP, to track spending, to track performance, on-time delivery metrics, quality metrics, whatever it is you're tracking in your ERP. But getting into the conversation Amanda and I were having, this is a lengthier implementation. This is not the quick win that you can point to and say, like, hey, like we immediately saved this amount of money, and it justified the purchase. We want you to be able to justify that just from hard dollar savings. And if there are additional benefits that you can get out of Vendorful in improving your supplier relationships, in tracking information better and consolidating information, then we're happy to provide that as well. Like I said, we want to simplify all of these relationships. We want to provide transparency on your vendor relationships and transparency to your vendors on their relationships with you. But again, I think the hard lesson that we've learned over time and that we've seen our customers learn is that if it doesn't start with cost savings, it's very, very hard to drive that change and drive that purchase you want to make, that investment you want to make through your organization. So we start with cost savings and we go from there. Having said all that, track all the information about your suppliers in here, track compliance information, allow them to, self-serve their information, update certificates of insurance, all of that stuff, as well as, run different types of sourcing events. If you don't want to run sort of a, kind of a dynamic RFQ, or if it's not appropriate, it's, a more complex purchase like an ERP system, you want to run a traditional RFP, you can absolutely do that through Vendorful. That was actually the very, very first thing we built. It's the most mature part of our product, and the number one thing that we sell today.
Before I let you go, do you have any final wrap-up words that you want to leave our audience with today?
One thing I've learned from kind of sitting in the middle of a lot of these interactions between buyers and sellers, is that I do think buyers have a poor understanding of what their sellers actually want and what they value. And I think that there's a concern that they really, really don't want to be put in like what they consider to be like hard competition. And I don't think that's true at all. I think they want clarity, they
Yeah.
want certainty, and they want speed. Like they really, really value knowing the outcome, right? And not having to sort of chase their customers for 3 months only to get a no or to get ghosted, right? They'd rather get a fast no than like a slow maybe.
The first thing that I loved about today is their pricing model for procurement professionals. How cool is it that they're putting their financial risk on the line? They have such confidence in their service and solution that they're willing to provide value first before they actually charge you for that particular solution. So think that is so cool. They're really putting their money where their mouth is and saying, no, this is real value here. And you can see that through the demo too, how quickly you could potentially get to value. So that was awesome. Very refreshing to see. First time, like I said before, that I saw that, particularly from a procure tech, if I can classify them as that, in this arena, just being able to do that. So awesome, awesome, awesome. You hear this from me a lot, and you saw it today. I am a huge fan of integrating these applications to where people are working already. So for Pete to start the whole demonstration today from an email, I mean, everyone knows, I don't even want to say that they love email, but everyone knows how to email and use an email. So that the fact that he started there was super refreshing to me. If you ever have the opportunity to invest in a solution, you always want to be looking at how much do I have to drive adoption to an application versus that application adapting to where people are already working. If you can get it to where people are already working, your barriers to success are much, much lower. So kudos to them to be thinking through that. And then my last one that I had is all around the philosophy of where they're going of trying to kill the RFP. If you guys follow me on LinkedIn, you know that I am a huge fan of thinking about that differently. I think RFPs are resulting in lackluster results and outcomes when we could be thinking much more about solutions and leveraging data that's already available in the marketplace to streamline it quite a bit and move faster. So as a procurement professional, if you can move faster through your processes, you can get more through that pipe. Right now, I feel like RFPs are really limiting our ability to get items through the pipeline. And if you can release that pressure point and not have an RFP be so slow, you can actually move more through the process. So I think that's a game changer. I think we're going to not only be able to move faster, but also get better results. So keep an eye on Vendorful for that aspect and what they're bringing to the table here in the future. All right. Couple of things that I didn't see today that I was hoping to see, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't do it. So I do want to put a big asterisk there on the three things that I'm going to point out. One of the things that I didn't see in the demo today was like more of a project management layer of what they were doing in that particular bid. And I know that was a very price focused example. However, there might be various different people that are intrigued or should be involved in understanding where that's at in the process. So more of a project management layer. Again, Pete mentioned that there was more full-blown RFP functionality. I'm assuming they have it in there. Just didn't see it today. So would love to have a little bit more exposure to that. But just knowing the complexities of these organizations having some sort of project management layer associated with that bid would have been beneficial to see today. Another thing that I think is a huge opportunity for Vendorful is to continue to learn from the data. And Pete mentioned that today. But one of the aspects I think would be super cool to see is that win now price is so important. It puts pressure on everyone to understand where you want to potentially be in the marketplace. But if you can build some intelligence around that in the system, so like for me as a someone that's leading a sourcing opportunity like this, do I actually know what that should be win now price should be? Like, do I know that that's the right level? Is there some sort of science behind it? And is there AI that could learn what that could be collectively across, I don't know, many different verticals, customers that are going through the platform? So it's a more intelligent number, or there could be recommendations that could be made. I think that would be awesome to see in the future. And then the last aspect that I think would be awesome to see in this solution is kind of on the flip side. You know, we talked about simplifying this by the buyer and supplier relationships and those interactions. From a supplier standpoint, obviously they can see the number of what the win now number is, but are there any other suggestions that could be made around winning that bid? So for instance, does lead time matter for some of those? Does location matter around shipping expenses associated with that? So where are they going to be providing those items from and to? So there's other aspects of outside of just that widget price, if you will, that could be considered to drive more success than just the win now price. So uh, I think it would be really neat to see some of that and supply some of that information of what would be ideal to the suppliers, again, in the effort to simplify that interaction and hopefully help them win based off of the expectations that were given by the buyer. So those are the three things that I didn't see yet, don't quite like yet, recommendations for the future, but I really loved what I saw today. So if you are in their ideal market and you want to learn more, please click on the link below. We at Wonder Services, we're here to help you understand what those solutions are in the marketplace so you can make the best choice and investment for your company today and for the long term.